In this problem, we want to solve x divided by x squared plus x minus 2 plus x over x squared minus 1 is equal to x over x squared plus 3x plus 2. So the first thing we want to do here is factor each of these denominators so that we can see more clearly what our least common denominator is going to be, and then also what we're going to rule out as answers or values of x we cannot have. So this will be x divided by this trinomial factors down to x plus 2 times x minus 1 plus x divided by this factors down to x plus 1 times x minus 1, and that will equal x divided by this trinomial factors down to x plus 2 times x plus 1. And now when I look at these three denominators, I see that x cannot equal a negative 2, a positive 1, a negative 1. This one again would be a 1, a negative 2, which we already have, and a negative 1. So these three values of x will make one or more of these denominators 0, which we can't have, so we would have to rule those out as any possible solution. Now what I want to do is find my least common denominator so that I can multiply this whole equation by the least common denominator. So it's going to have an x plus 2 and an x minus 1. In this denominator, I have the x minus 1 already, so we need to include an x plus 1 in my least common denominator. And when I look at this denominator here, these factors are already in my least common denominator, so I'm going to settle on that to be the least common denominator and multiply each side of this equation by the least common denominator. And then I will do the same thing over here. So when I multiply this least common denominator into this rational, you'll see that the x plus 2's divide out, the x minus 1's divide out, so I'm left with x times x plus 1. When I multiply this rational expression by the least common denominator, the x minus 1 and x plus 1 divide out, so I'm left with plus x times x plus 2. That's going to equal, when you multiply the least common denominator into this rational expression, the x plus 2, the x plus 1 divide out, so we are left with x times x minus 1. And now we distribute, so we will get x squared plus x squared plus 2x is equal to x squared minus x. What I notice is that I'll just combine like terms I think first here. So we would get a 2x squared here. X plus 2x is going to give me a 3x, and that's going to equal x squared minus x. It's a quadratic, so I'm going to pull everything over. I'm going to subtract the x squared. I'm going to add x and set this equal to 0. So when I subtract x squared from a 2x squared, I'm going to get 1x squared. When I add x to 3x, I will get plus 4x, and that's going to equal 0. Factor out an x here, so I get x times x plus 4 is equal to 0. If this product is going to be 0, then that means either x is 0 or x plus 4 is equal to 0. This one would be when x is equal to negative 4. So it looks like two solutions are 0 and negative 4. I look up here. 0 and negative 4 were not in the answers that I ruled out, so that means my two solutions are x equals 0 and x equals negative 4.